Quick rundown of my Toshiba PA7354E numpad thingamajiggy with Mitsumi Minimax, specifically of the uncommon green linear variety with Mitsumi keycap mounts. Unlike their more common tactile variety, which you can find in a lot of keyboards, these linear ones are much smoother and certainly less prone to binding than the tactile ones. Um, I'm pressing them off center, and they're even more resistant to binding than Space Invaders. Maybe not on par with, say, SKCC or something, but they're pretty good. Unfortunately, they replaced that flaw with another flaw. They ping like motherfuckers. It's really silly. These things sing. These things sing. The loss of the reduction in binding seems to be from the tactile ones have a little bump on the bottom housing, which inflects the horizontal spring, and that seems to interfere a little bit with the slider. Because Mitsumi did tolerances like shit and literally never made a single good key switch in their entire history. And since these linear ones have a vertical spring and they don't need that little inflector bump, there's nothing to interfere with them. So it's just 4.5 millimeters of good fun. However, they're pretty smooth, but they're not, super duper smooth. And the pinging, they would be better if you could get inside of them to lube them, but you can't because Mitsumi Minimax are basically sealed switches. And I'm certainly not brave enough to try and reassemble the metal tops after bending them and unbending them, and oh god, absolutely not. So they're gonna kind of be stuck like this. The keycaps on this thing are something that I've seen before on Mitsumi Mount Minimax. They're sort of thinnish, and I'm not sure if it's some kind of rimless pad printing that's like really flat to the keycap, or if it's maybe some kind of just thin dye sub thingamajig going on. But they're pretty nice and they're pretty resilient. I like them. They're not, thick and tall and SA profile like I might like, but they get the job done, and they're not too offensive. Um, and it's just kind of funny to look at them on this thing because of how tall they sit at rest and how low they are when you press them in, because Mitsumi Minimax have a 4.5 millimeter travel. These linear Minimax do retain the nice deep bottom out sound that you associate with Minimax. Although I haven't lubed these ones, so they aren't quite at peak. But it's a fair representation as it stands. This numpad in particular has 6 key rollover. You can pick any 6 keys. The limitation seems to be less hardware and more the protocol that it speaks. And the protocol limitation is because this thing has 2 wires coming out of it. You can see my little converter here. MMCM wrote up the firmware for it. It runs on QMK, so you get all the bells and whistles, like macros and layers and beepers. Because if you've got a good eye, this right here is a beeper, specifically a PT-3110P-05Q. And it sounds, well, honestly, it kind of sounds god-awful, and I made a bad choice picking it, but you're going to suffer with me. Yeah, it doesn't sound great. It sounds kind of like what some shitty indie dev thinks that retro stuff sounds like, and it's not ideal. But you can mess with it. I like this whole keypad a lot. I plan on using it for basically anything that isn't that doesn't have a numpad attached to it in the future. It's good stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this little rundown. Take care.